Hello, this is Jenine Marie of Jenine Marie Hypnosis. Welcome to my new video entitled You Do You. While you're here, if you're not a subscriber, why not take this opportunity to subscribe? I would love to have you. Now, let's go. Hey everybody, this is Jenine Marie. I'm so glad that you're here. I have entitled this video, You Do You, because it is one of the best pieces of advice that I think I had heard when I really needed it most. And I don't know if I've repeated that before or not, but I am doing it today because you need to hear it. I need to hear it. We all need to hear it. We need to be ourselves. You know, there are so many ideas and innovations and opinions, and especially opinions out there. And you know what? We all have them, and that is absolutely great. It's fantastic. It's how we learn. It's how we pick up knowledge. It's how we interact with each other. We learn from one another, right? But we want to make sure that we're learning information that's going to be elevating and helpful to us. So recently, I was watching a video and there was a comment made regarding grief and grieving. And I think if you have watched any of my previous videos, you would probably know that I have gone through a grief journey. I previously lost my son and then more recently lost my daughter. And when I say lost, they're not lost completely, you know, they're alive, but they're not here where I can see them, feel them, touch them, talk to them. So for me, grieving is the love that I have for my loved ones, my dear children, and all of my loved ones who have gone on now before me. And that love is seeking and looking for a place to go. And it isn't finding that specific place and that space, and it starts to feel hollow, and it starts to pool up, and it starts to hurt, and it starts to ache. And I think one of the most beautiful things that I've ever read at the time that I really needed to hear it and read it the most was that love just pools up inside of us and it has nowhere to go, so it leaks out of our eyes. And that was just amazing to me because it just really came at the right time for me. So maybe that is something for you today and it comes at the right time. But the other piece of advice is you do you. And like I said, I was listening to someone else's video and they said something to the fact that, you know, don't hole yourself up in the home or in your house or hide or whatever. And, you know, don't do this or that because you're grieving or you lost your loved ones. Just pick yourself up basically by the bootstraps and keep on going. Now that is very, very encouraging. And if someone can do that, that is amazing. Great. But there's something inside of me that says when they try to do that, there's something they're going to miss within their healing. And lo and behold, I began to watch more videos and tears started to spurt out. And several videos, tears began to spurt out, which tells me the person that was saying that is not done grieving themselves. And so, you know, if we don't honor ourselves enough to give us the time that we need, however that might look, to grieve the feeling of the sense of loss, then we cut off our healing. You know, the biggest mistake I think I had ever made in the past was to not grieve certain things and to pick myself up and to keep on going. And there was, I believe, a fraction of me out there trying to perform life instead of live life. So let me just be really candid with you. This last time when my daughter passed away, and it's been a couple of years. I reacted, I think, very similar to when my son passed away, which has been a little bit more a distance, a little bit longer ago, but I still feel the pangs of that grief sometimes. I truly believe that grief is like the waves of an ocean, that it comes up in waves, it brushes up against the sand, and then it pulls off some of the topsoil of the sand or the top layers of sand back with it. And as it opens up, the next layer, we go through another layer of grief. And it's meant to be like that. It's meant to be a process. That's why so many authors have written about grief, and they write about it as a process. Now, for me, what the process looks like is I need my alone time. I need my space, but I also need people who love me and understand and want to talk. That, there is a time for that. But I'm not someone who wants to talk about it 24 hours a day. I don't want other people to go through my grief with me, especially those who are not going through the same experience or the same loss, a sense of loss. I don't want to feel like they need to be uncomfortable around me. And quite often, more often, I think than not, people do feel very uncomfortable around someone who is freshly grieving. And what I really learned over time is it really does me service to go into a space where I do get more alone time, more mind space. And when that grief comes up, when the waves of the ocean come up and brush the top layer of the shore off back into the ocean, I have that rawness. I am able to process it without anybody interjecting their ideas into what my grief is supposed to look like. And I'm able to also rest my mind. And, I can't even express this part enough. Rest for your mind is so important during a time of grief. So, rest for me does not look like a week in bed when I've lost my child, okay? Grief for me does not look like a week in bed when I lost a parent. Although there are times we need to function. Yes, we need to take care of ourselves. Some of us, we need to go out and work. We need to continue on with life. But we also need to take those moments. Everyone has time off. Everyone has time to process. Time is really an illusion. And if you want to look for time, if you feel like you have no time and you're seeking for it, believe me, you will find it. There is time available for all things, all seasons under heaven. Okay? There is time. And if not anything else, the universe has given us eternal time. There is no time limit and there is no time frame for any particular person. For me, I'm going on my second year. Now, the sting of grief is not there. It kind of, as things begin to process and things move along a little bit further, it's easier to get along with life as usual. But it hasn't gone away. Love for my daughter or my loved ones it hasn't gone away. And it will not go away. Love is forever. True love is forever. It doesn't go away and dissipate because someone is not in front of you. And the passing of time, as we measure it in linear time on earth, is not going to change the way you feel. Because every time something comes up and it reminds me of my son, or reminds me of my daughter, or maybe some of my loved ones that have gone on before me, I feel that pang. And that pang is, I love you, I miss you, and I am filled with that love and I want to give it to you, but there's no place that I can find to give it to. You know, there's no you here that I can give it to. And so it leaks out my eyes. And yes, sometimes I talk to my loved ones. I have a good talk. I sit down and I tell them, this is how it is. It feels really hard. So I need to talk to you today, even if I don't hear a voice back or can't hear a voice back. Okay, so, you know, I know spiritually, especially in dreams, and that's something that is coming up in the future, we have visitations from our loved ones in our dreams. If you pay attention, you will have them. If you want to have them, you will have them. If it's necessary to have them, you will have them. And messages lie within the subconscious mind. They come through to us through our dreams. I mean, there are, you know, fathers of psychology that have preached that out for many, many years. And we have learned that through our coursework and all of that. But what I want to say is, you know, maybe grieving looks one way for somebody on YouTube or in their blog or maybe down the street from where you live. And they say, you know, maybe you should be over it by now. You should pull yourself up and do something for your life. Don't hide. Don't sit in a corner. Don't lay in your bed. Don't stay in your house. Don't. Well, I'm here to tell you, do whatever it takes to honor yourself and your loved one during the process of grief. You might feel great 2 days later. I don't know. That's up to you. But you see, I don't want this video to be something that you use to guide your grief through, because this is my grief that I'm explaining. What I want it to be for you is, I guess, edification to do you the way you're supposed to be doing it. Everyone is at a different place in their life. We all have different beliefs in our lives. We all process grief differently in our lives. We all pull ourselves up by the bootstraps at a certain time, and that time is not always the same as the neighbor next door who lost their child, or the person on YouTube videos who lost their parent or their child, or somebody in their family. It may be a dear friend. You know, loss comes in a lot of different ways. Sometimes it's moving away. Sometimes it is the loss of, the sense of loss of time, maybe the loss of youth. Sometimes we go through physical illness, and we have the loss of how we used to be. And now we have to accept the way we are now. So, you know, grief comes in a lot of different frames. You know, we have the picture of many different aspects of grief. And, you know, I just don't want you to do yourself the disservice of thinking that you have to be empowered and in a certain way during one of the most vulnerable times in your life. And, you know, when you cut off part of your life path or part of your process, you cut off your ability to progress and to fly in future days. So anything that's cut off and done too soon because you're in too much of a hurry, or you're trying to follow someone's advice according to how their life is, so they think everybody else's life is supposed to be that way. It's not true. We all live our own life. So if you cut yourself off, you cut yourself from getting the full lesson in life through grief, because grief is not just a process when you lose somebody or you lose a facet of yourself or a facet of your life, but it's also a process that brings learning. Something I learned about myself a long time ago: when I grieve, I need to be alone. I can't have people around me laughing and giggling and having a good time. I'd love to be able to do that. But to honor myself, I had to step back and say, no, I cannot do this now. Maybe in the future, yes, because life always moves forward and we always move onward and we're always growing. So in this, for me, I honored myself because I don't want to stunt my growth. I don't want to hold myself back. I want to believe that everything comes at its perfect timing. And I don't want to burst the butterfly or the developing butterfly out of the cocoon too soon, because that butterfly will not be able to fly. And when you go through grief, you're like a caterpillar, and sometimes you need a cocoon. And that cocoon has a hardness and a shell that's around it, protecting you from the elements around you. And some of that element can be bad advice. And it might be well-meaning, but it can be really bad advice for your life path. You know, people say a lot of things, and sometimes we rely on some of the old familiar things. If there's anything that I can do for you, please let me know. If at all possible, strike that. When somebody's grieving or going through something, or you're at a funeral, try to strike that and get that out of your mind if you can. If you want to say that, that's fine. But I want to give you an alternative. Don't present yourself with the option, if there's anything that I can do. Because the person who's grieving, chances are they're not going to take that option. They're not going to call you up and say, you know, remember that time when you said that? Well, you can do that. I'm going to collect that today. Okay? Instead, maybe a better way is to be silent and to just do for them as they will allow, and as you feel it's time, or as you see that you can. When there's an opening, then do for them. If they say no, honor that. That means back away. I need more time. I need my process. And I don't want to cut it short. I want to go through the entire experience and feel, sense, understand, and come to understand myself more. Because believe me, as you go through grief and as you process grief, you will come to know yourself better than you ever had before. Okay? You know, I want to cut this now because I'm going on 20 minutes already, but I really, really wanted to get all of that in. It's so important to me that you hear it. And, you know, if you want to, you can contact me and tell me how you do you and how you do grief. And I would be happy to listen to you anytime. So you can look in the description box below, and I will put all of my contact information. And if you want to just leave a message on my answering service, it's not a machine anymore. You want to say machine, but it's not. It's a service. And just tell me how you do grief. You know, no callback really necessary. Tell me how you do grief and how you do you. And I think that's good advice, don't you? So I'm going to take that advice today and do me, and click off for now and tell you that I am so loving you from here, and I will talk to you again very, very soon. Good things are coming in this new season. Bye-bye.